The Nerd Academy podcast is released weekly at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, available on our website at www.thenerdacademypodcast.com and wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find the Nerd Academy podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. You can also help support the show by going to patreon.com/The Nerd Academy podcast, where every donation allows us to bring you more exciting content every week.
Good morning, class, and welcome back to the #1 Contender podcast, the show where your favorite nerds sit down and talk all things movie trivia schmodown. I am your host, Jarod, the Dark Jedi Bachman Stubbs, and joining me, as always, is my new favorite Twitch thought, Travis Grossman.
It's not as good as a can crack.
Lacey didn't like that joke.
No, I didn't like how aggressive you opened the show. It was so aggressive.
I apologize. It's been a very...
It's okay. It's just, Come on, buddy. You just started screaming.
I apologize to any listeners who may have been accosted by me with that opening. We have one hell of an episode.
No, we don't. Nothing happened this week.
Nothing happened.
We didn't just get finished watching anything.
Like, less than 5 minutes ago, finished the match.
No, nothing happened.
We are gonna. I hate to shortchange this week's matches, but we have a lot to talk about with this Star Wars Championship. So we're gonna try to lightning round this week's matches as best we can while still giving them their due. So before we get to the elephant in the bantha in the room, as it were. First things first, Brandon Hanna versus Eric the Zip Man Zipper.
I think this was a fantastic match.
You were really, really positive on this one for good reason.
Yeah. I think Hanna showed that he can hang in bad situations. I think I know what that call was, because you don't miss an Aquaman question and then hand your opponent DC.
Yeah.
But I think in his mind, he was still operating under old Innergeekdom and thought that DC and DCEU were different categories.
That might be what he was thinking.
And he just went, oh, I know regular DC. I'll give him that. And if I get questions. I think that's what happened. And I mean, it didn't end up mattering.
Or anyway. He was banking on he'll get Jonah Hex and Catwoman and not shit like Batman v Superman or Aquaman or Birds, whatever.
Mm-hmm. But Hanna showing he can play. He knows that he's, when he can't be there fully with the trivia, he can be there with the game and just keep that mental resilience. He never resigned to defeat before it was set, but when Zipper missed his 3-pointer, I saw him perk up. He realized oh, okay, we're still in this.
Yeah.
He had a noticeable facial change of we might go to sudden death. I need to be ready. And he hyped himself up and he got himself there.
Well, yeah. And I've been saying, since last season before this show was a thing and this season on air, I really like Brandon Hanna as a character. I like the Hitman a lot. And I've been waiting for his game to reflect how entertaining he is to watch.
I like his longer hair now too.
I do too. I like
good look.
Yeah. Handsome devil. This is an amazing match. I was getting really disappointed, all Zipper's great, all the Mike Kalinowski, zippity doodah jokes aside. He's phenomenal and his track record speaks for himself. He's got, 2 KOs last season. And I thought the Hitman was done for. I really did. This is a repeat of last week with Frankie Alvarez and Brother Lomas, where you just can't do he's going into this match, this round at a disadvantage. It's all over here. You can't do that anymore, really. I think everybody's level of play is just different. Everybody is just built different going into season 8. And if there's one thing that should be taken away from this, the past week of matches, It's that just because round 3 looks scary doesn't mean that it's not possible to overcome it.
Yeah. I think Hannah's real challenge is going to come. Now, granted, we haven't seen Parker play yet, but next month when he plays Parker,
yeah,
can he still hang in those tough situations? Or,
I'm also going to interrupt you real quick just to say we are aware of the April slate of matches, and we will be covering that next week.
Yeah. Well, I'm probably going to reference it once or twice here.
Yeah, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure everybody knows. We know we're going to get to that when we don't have this behemoth of a Star Wars championship to talk about.
Yeah, I think both players did a great job. I'm glad to see the Zipper and Winston are hanging out again. They're good friends. We like friends. We like happy people.
The power of friendship.
And I'm excited to see him play Parker. I'm excited to see Parker play again.
Me too.
In this new IG. So that'll be fun.
I agree completely. Yeah. Phenomenal match.
Moving on to the most important Star Wars match of this week.
I will say before we move on from Hannah v. Zipper, they said it in the promos, they said it in the pre-match. Roxy Stryer fits. Roxy Stryer as a manager fits Brandon Hannah as a competitor like a glove. That is such a great matching, and like they just steal a Coy Jandruism. It's peanut butter and jelly. They are a great pairing. And I do want to ask you, now that we've seen more from Brandon Hannah and we saw him really just get into a slugfest, do you think he's potentially champion material? Because as much as I like him, I'm not 100% sold yet on that.
He needed this win. I think for him, a lot of, we're in this very new Innergeekdom. I think for him especially, he needed to win this match to put himself in the mindset that he can keep winning. I think if he manages to put Parker on his toes next week and, even beat him, I think he can get on a roll. I think he needs to buy into his own hype, but now he's at a point where he doesn't need to necessarily, that he can keep himself centered during a match when things aren't looking great. Because that's what he did. It looked like he was going to lose and then realized that he was going into sudden death. And instead of just scrambling to get back into it, he took that time to go, okay, this might be happening. I need to be ready. So yeah, I think his match next month will be very telling.
I agree with you. I think you're right on that. Moving along into, like Travis said, the biggest Star Wars match of the week.
There was another one.
We had Gold Leader from the Finstock Exchange against the Den's Lacey Gilleran of the Resistance Broadcast Podcast.
I want to say that I hope Gucci keeps up this running gag that all of his players he met while he was at a random event related to either the player or the thing. Because he was like, I was in a random monastery in, I forget what state he said, and I found Brother Lomas. Or I heard a voice, and that voice is Brother Lomas. And this one is I was at a Star Wars convention in Florida, and I heard, and this boy came up to me and said he was going to be in the Smowdown, and that boy was Gold Leader. I want him to do that, but for Roka.
Wait. I was at a random entertainment news outfit. I was clearly referring to Collider.
I was enjoying my Friday evening when someone called me and said, "Dude, why aren't you managing your champion player? Where are you?" That man was John Roka.
That's good. Although, I'm trying to remember now if Gucci was in Florida for any of Celebration Orlando.
I don't believe a word he says.
Because that lines up, because him just saying Florida, that's where the last Star Wars Celebration was. So he may not be full of shit with this one, which would be new for him. Again, another great match. Star Wars division is as competitive as it's ever been, granted, because it has more action going on in it than it ever has.
Competitive is a word for it.
We'll get there. This is a good one. There's a lot of good trivia. This one almost as much as this last Star Wars match.
PJ Campbell has decided he wants as few perfect round ones as he could possibly get this season. He has just decided he is sick of perfect rounds.
I'm sure he wasn't thrilled with this match. Yeah, this one probably had me because I watched this morning. I was sitting there, I had Yoda laying on my leg, sipping some coffee, and this one had me multiple times just out loud go, yes, at the trivia multiple times. It was just good ass questions.
I could hear, everyone. I was listening to the match on Spotify.
Yeah.
Everyone was having fun. People were enjoying the trivia. They were enjoying the match. Even Gold Leader, being managed by Finstock, managed to enjoy himself and win. So I like that his next target wasn't Damon or the belt. It was like, I want to beat a Dragon Con player just to show people that like a not Dragon Con rookie is good.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of silver bulletification, pretend that's a word, of the Dragon Con players. And as we'll address today, you don't need to be a Dragon Con player to fight with the demon. So I agree with him. I want to see him play one of these Dragon Con players. Everybody kept saying Marie Wilson. And I'd like to see that very much. I also enjoyed Kate Mulligan and all the different gold puns she could come up with. Goldschlager being my favorite.
I just like that she got Harloff to unironically call him Gold Member once.
It's like you guys just like sowing the seeds of a letter flip during a Thov and Lunder. And you got it out of me. But yeah, that was a phenomenal match. Lacey Gilleran really handled her defeat well. I think
a lot of these rookies are very much taking their first matches in stride, whether they win or lose, and just going, okay, now I know the game, and now I know what this is like.
Yeah, I think for somebody who wasn't already familiar with the game, she performed incredibly.
Mm-hmm.
I also like the fact that, because Star Wars used to be such a limited division, there isn't so much of the like, you lost once and we're never going to see you again mentality. There is very much a sense of, I lost today.
I think, and that's what's made it feel so fresh, I think, is that they, like you said, like we're not getting 3 Star Wars matches this year and one of them's a title shot. It's that, we're going to see both these players again later this year, not even necessarily during a tournament. And
yeah,
the fact that Star Wars is a very real division now, especially now that it's just a lot more exciting. And I think these rookies especially can take some time to breathe and, also get used to how the Schmodown works. So
I agree with you completely. Moving on, you caught more of Jeanine versus Paramo. Am I saying correctly?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. You caught more of that than I did. That wow, this is a big week for the Stars. I forgot Jeanine the Machine was on the Stars now.
Mm-hmm. And she won.
Yeah. Good. Good. I didn't get to watch it or listen to it because I worked.
I watched it at 1.5 times speed to see who won. I saw who won, and that was good enough for me.
Yep. These Friday matches that drop at the same time as live events are difficult for us in our current format, but that will be changing in the near future. There's going to be a little bit of behind the scenes moving around of how this show works. So we'll be able to cover those Friday matches a little better,
especially on weeks where there isn't a double match pay-per-view. But
yeah. If there weren't, massive double headers, it wouldn't be a problem.
And the Mercs dance party is now my favorite thing in the Schmodown. Like I love my Dungeon Boys, but I want to go to a Mercs dance party.
I'm so upset I didn't get to see that. That
I will show you the clip when we're done recording.
I look forward to it because I also love that it got referenced by Harloff as well.
It's an incredible training tactic.
that's why he won, because the power of dance
I mean-
overcame the power of the force.
We'll get to this later, but that's not inaccurate. So pay-per-view. The headliner, Bibbs v. Oyama.
Yeah, this was a great match. It
was.
didn't occur to me until today that these two had not crossed paths in singles yet, which seems almost hard to believe.
I mean, Oyama showed up right as Bibbs started making his run with the kid, right?
Yeah.
Like they formed Shazam that season, and Bibbs did win. No, he played Bateman in the finals for the tournament. And they did that at Spectacular, and he didn't get to play Oyama because of it. So, yeah, they got very close to playing each other for the belt, but didn't quite get there.
Yeah, this is a phenomenal match, though. Like,
I will say, I think the Oyama that had the belt wouldn't have been able to beat the Bibbiani that was going to play him that night. I think Oyama is doing much better now that he's with Swag than with the Dungeon.
I think you're right.
I think you're
right.
Like there are some of these players that come in with that, like, I'm going to be angry, I'm going to win, and I'm going to be like just super serious the whole time, and then you can tell they have the knowledge and they can't quite get there, and then they switch to somebody who lets them like breathe and have fun, and that's the push they needed.
Yeah, for sure.
They were just too in it to see that next step in front of them. And I think Oyama, even though like Oyama did get there at first, that I think now he's a more consistent player by being on Swag. I mean, we saw that tonight. He pulled a he missed his 3-pointer.
Yeah. Yeah, he came close though. And like we both went, oh, sudden death. Oh man, no sudden death tonight. Cue the Curb Your Enthusiasm music. So real quick, plotline talk that I want to insert into this, because I said this to you half jokingly earlier, but I want to submit this in evidence in case this becomes a thing.
Oh, I know what you're talking about now.
What was what's his name again?
Darrell
and Winston Marshall are two different people. Darrell is a Superboy style clone that is taking Winston's DNA and Dan Murrell's DNA, and it is literally a black Dan Murrell. And Darrell is meant to be the manager that the Swagsurrection players are trying to insert into the leadership of Swag. And it is all being engineered by Grace Hancock, who's also sowing chaos by letting 2017 era Andrew Guy
call questions
be at the desk this season,
which I am excited for.
I'm curious if Guy, plot lines and silliness aside, is taking a step back from the sport but still wants to be involved.
I think so.
I get the vibe that he's just like, I want to take a break for a little bit, but still clearly wants to be a part of it. He's just like,
I mean, I kind of get that
keen on playing.
I get that vibe about Christian a little bit too, with the Grace stuff. That like this is an easy way for him to like, if I can't get something done this weekend, or like just to help with the planning. Like I'm sure that in reality he isn't the only person that comes up with these matches, but this is their way of being like, hey, Christian isn't the only one doing the slate now, and it's fine. Whatever. Like, live your life.
Yeah,
this is a neat way to like incorporate it.
I agree completely. Like what's really weird about the leadership of the Schmodown is that it's really hard to tell how much is plotline, how much is professional wrestling, and how much is the actual chain of command. Like I don't know how much Clark Wolf actually does. I don't know how much Harloff actually does. I don't know back in the day how much Thad Williams did beyond being the guy who was getting blackmailed by KO. I think that I think it's an interesting plot line, and again, Schmominati stuff. I'm very excited to see where that goes. And yeah, I think Grace is a great foil, and I'm glad that even though she's not in the den, she's sticking around. But this is a good match, and I was disappointed to see Bibbs lose.
I was too.
And I think that Bibbiani has become one of those players in the singles division that, like, I don't want to say that he's easily beaten because he's not. I don't think you can be.
Would you say he's like Roca tier? Or like Marguerite Riley tier? Where they were old greats that have kept up with the game enough that they can still play well, but also you can compete with them.
Let me put it this way. Roca and Bibbs and Riley all have been around long enough that it is not novel to see how they lose.
Yeah.
So I would not say that it is so much.
They're not at that tier of play like they used to.
I don't think their play has atrophied with time. I think it's just they've been around for so long
They
have a mixed record.
Yeah, people have seen them bleed, and that's enough to go. Even though I'm playing, I'm playing Mark Riley, I'm playing William Bibbiani, but like I know they can lose because they've lost before. So I can beat them. Like I think that's the difference. And like Bibbs is working a lot for Shazam. He helped Dimilanta. Apparently, they talked about that in their post interview this week. He's been helping Dimilanta prepare, and I'm sure that means he's helping everyone in the Mercs prepare because like that's just he's been around long enough that he knows what kind of really insane questions that are going to get asked.
Yeah, I will say, and this is speculation. I feel like Bibbiani might do better in general when he has the intimidation factor of the free-for-all.
Like after the free-for-all, if he does what he does, like what he
does every year.
Yeah. That he will just come out as that force again. Okay.
Because you look back at every year where he performs in the free-for-all, and I use perform in a very literal sense. There's that like, okay, it's William Bibbiani. He's still standing. He started it and he ended it. That kind of seems to be like the reoccurring theme with him. And maybe it's because of the faction war, and maybe it's because he's with Koi, and maybe because we've gone from like, William the Beast Bibbiani still standing to William, the guy you just kind of want to hug who makes soap. And it's not to say that he's lost his edge. Clearly he hasn't. I don't think anybody at like low, high tier and down can take it. But I don't think he feels as scary as he once did. And I think come another free-for-all, if he has the kind of performance that he normally does, which is up for debate because of the digital format, and you and I both agree he and the kid have suffered from it.
They're getting better, though.
They're getting better.
Even though like they both lost their opening matches this season, they're very clearly getting used to it, and I love to see that. I mean, they want a belt through it still.
Yeah, even though it messes with them, they still were belted. So,
and they're getting their number one contender shot. Cut the show. They're getting their shot again next month, which really excites me because I want them to win that.
Yeah. Plus the tournament that all comes to a head with a number one contender shot against Corruption as well, which I'm obviously looking forward to. To answer the question that kind of got us to this conversation, I think that Bibbiani and Roca occupy similar spaces because I think that they have a legendary status that puts them on a different level. Like Bibbiani has these historic runs at the free for all, right? Roca has
just the nonsense polls of random questions.
Nonsense polls of random questions. You know, like again, that match around this time last year where we got the friggin' YA adaptations category and ran it somehow. Stuff like that comes to mind. But like Roca's just like, I don't know. If the movie Trivia Schmodown were a TV show, like a completely scripted TV show, an argument can be made that John Roca is the main character. And if not Roca, Merle.
Or that they are the main characters.
Yeah, or you just put an S at the end and it's Roca and Merle, right? When you look at it that way, in my opinion, Roca has that legendary status where like he's kind of a god in terms of the game. That he's had these like crazy, I was up, then I was down, then I was back, then I fell back down, and then I was here, and then I was a heel, and then I was a face, and then I was a heel, and then I was an anti-hero, and now I'm a full heel, and now I'm with Dagnino. I refuse to work with Dagnino. He's had all of this stuff that like Roca's just so larger than life that I think he has another intimidation factor that you've got to kind of like mix in the pot of trivia knowledge that is all the way up here.
Do you think we will eventually get to a point where Bibbs is managing?
Do I think Bibbiani eventually manages?
Because in my head, there comes a point where Bibbiani manages the kid to a singles championship.
I think there's a chance that happens. I think it would require certain people, and when I say certain, I say it make it sound like I have people in mind. It would require, hypothetically, Coy stepping away. So it would require there being a vacuum of managers and factions and people who need managed for Bibbiani to step up. I wouldn't be surprised if if a chain of events came that left the door open for William Bibbiani to become a manager. I could see it happening.
He could even do the managing and playing at the same time bit. I could see that.
I wouldn't mind that. And yeah, it's an interesting prospect. I sooner see John Roca being a manager than I do see Bibbiani. Like, and I don't know if Roca would do what Burnett tried to do last year, where he drafts himself as a player. I feel like
for both Bibbs and Roca, they would both try to do that. They would take themselves. They would wait till the end. Like they would do it as their last pick, but they would draft themselves.
Roca deliberately drafts himself fourth.
just cause. But
that would be character development. That would be the moment like Roca became a different character. But I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know if Bibbiani would manage and play all at once. I feel like Roca loves the fight too much. Like, I really do think that there's a part of Roca that has that, Rocky Balboa style, I live the fight shit going on. That I have a hard time imagining him ever not playing. But it's an interesting idea for sure. But yeah, again, not to be overshadowed, Paul Oyama. I think he's the most underrated former champion.
I think you're right.
I count Paul Oyama. I don't count him out, but like, forget that this kid. I say kid like he's younger than us. We're like I think you're the same age as Paul Oyama.
I think he's a year younger than me.
Because
he referenced the fact that he was born in 97.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, with the Men in Black question.
Which I swear to God, I wrote like. I guess it had to have been Men in Black 2. I remembered coming out because I didn't see them.
Or maybe just some marketing for like the home release.
Maybe, but that still would have been in like 98. Like I vividly remember Men in Black toys being in like McDonald's and the movie getting advertised on TV. And like
I had MIB2 toys.
yeah, but that's the thing is like I remember those ads and stuff in like 2001, which means it would have been Men in Black 2, but I swear to God it was Men in Black 1.
Hot take. Men in Black 2 is the best Men in Black. No. 2 or 3. Both get way more hate than they deserve. But this isn't a Men in Black podcast. Anyhow, Paul Oyama, he's phenomenal. And like I really do think people forget that
I think
the dude's a killer.
He just hit his stride with this match. I think he's on his way to going, at least trying for the belt again after this. I think this really put him in a good spot mentally.
Yeah.
I don't remember if he's playing next month or not, but
he is. And speaking of Paul Oyama and addressing matches we know are happening, confirmed he is still in Real Rejects.
Oh, yeah. He's on. I meant in singles, but
oh yeah, I just meant in general that like we now know that the
you said Real
Geniuses.
You said Real Rejects.
Did I say Real Rejects?
Yeah, and I just agreed with you, so I'm not any better. He's on Final Exam.
Thank you. But it is 2:25 in the morning.
Yeah. So he's playing on Final Exam. I don't think he has a singles match next month, but I can't remember.
I don't think he does, but so we have confirmation that Evil Geniuses is not reuniting
yet. Just saying.
I request elaboration.
Maybe the plot line is if Final Exam wins, they keep going as Final Exam, and if they lose, then Lon Harris is going to revert back to Evil Genius Lon Harris and go back with his brother, and Paul will find a partner.
I still have a feeling in the pit of my stomach Swag gets cracked in half.
I mean, yeah, or that happens.
I really like. There's a part of me that feels like we're building towards there being a 9th faction, which, like, for the sake of the faction war, I feel like that's kind of shitty to do. Like for plot lines, or like maybe that's how the season ends.
Yeah, that could work.
Like that could be the season 8 finale, as its Swag is fractured
into and ag.
I will also say, Winston Marshall has talked. He was talking on Backstage a few weeks ago, the same week we had Laura Kelly on for her interview. He is a busy man. And I think that there might be an attempt here to maybe, I don't want to say write him out of the show as though they're trying to get rid of him, but they're writing his exit into the story.
That makes sense. For at least for now. I mean, we've seen them do that before. And
we've seen people be brought back via plotline stuff, and I prefer to see people get written out of the story than just vanish, like that. Like that's the saddest thing is whenever like people just kind of go, yeah, I'm done now. Or yeah, I don't have time for it anymore. I know you and I both, every time there's a Star Wars match, are just like waiting for the Force Unleashed music to come on. And
they say, well, we know where Whitwer was today, so he wasn't going to show up. If you follow his Instagram, he, I think, adopted a stray dog.
He did. He is now the foster parent of a dog, and I hope he names the dog Proxy. I know he.
The pictures of him with that dog are so cute.
They are. They really are. Sam Whitwer, good man.
Good, rare Instagram poster, but good Instagram follow.
Even better Twitter follow.
True. And now for the undercard that meant nothing. And I'm trying to negate the fact that I chose to title our name here, how I feel after tonight. Because I said it couldn't be done.
Here's what I think is funny. For as many times as you were like, Damon can't be beat, Damon can't be beat, Damon can't be beat, you have more often than not off air talked about how badly you wanted to see him win tonight.
I wanted Damon to enter that threshold of he can bleed. I just I think now that people have seen it, granted, it's not like it's going to be easy to do it again. But
no.
Again, I just wanted people to see that he can, because usually here's how a match with Damon usually went. The competitor flinched competitor, like that narrows it down. The challenger misses first, and that puts them on their back foot. And so even when Damon misses a question later, because Damon usually doesn't have perfect games, which I forget often. When Damon misses later, he doesn't really feel it because his opponent's already like trying to catch up. So in his mind, he's just going, oh yeah, whatever. I had that point to miss anyway.
They're only like half a step closer now anyway.
Yeah, like I'm winning the mental game here. They faltered first, and even though that they're like, maybe they haven't missed their second question yet, but they're about to because you can tell they're struggling. And I think that going into this match, in my mind, the plan for Dimilanta was that he knew he could beat Damon. Like he knew he had the knowledge. And
yeah.
Clearly. And that when he missed first, he was going to need Coy behind him to go, hey, you're fine. Breathe. You know he will miss later. Like, you know he has the potential to miss a question. All you need to do is keep hitting. Like, all you need to do is keep in this game and not get down on yourself. And if he had that instead of, whatever Gucci does, he could keep the mental resolve to get to the end of the game and hopefully win. And I think this was their best case scenario where they just never get to that point.
I think there's something interesting about the fact that at no point in the post interviews or anything in Camp Dimilanta was there it sucks that it was a question, like we won on a question he knew but couldn't like make words happen, right? There's something, because I feel like if this were an IG win or an IG belt, right? Or if somebody got tongue-tied and just couldn't, tip of the tongue, wouldn't come out of your word hole, couldn't put it on the dry erase.
Well, that was
board,
the
right?
problem, is he didn't write it down fast enough.
He didn't write it. I mean, he didn't. He couldn't even think of it because he said like Alex Damon almost dropped a fuck bomb. Like he was very like I thought he was gonna say it
because then he said, "Can I just say it?" Which clearly, they, like our version, we didn't watch it completely live. They cut out something of them talking to Roxy about he had to have it written down. That's a sudden death rule. So like he thought of the word at the right time, and if it wasn't sudden death and he had another JTE, he could have gotten it.
That's the other thing. Yeah, and it's like I don't know how I feel about sudden death limiting people to one JTE.
I think it's necessary. I think if you give them all 3, you'll be there for years. I think giving them only 1 is the right call.
Yeah,
I think it's the fairest way.
It is the fairest, and like again, like in that vein of sudden death, like the stakes are higher. You don't get to play with the strategic deployment of a JTE the way that you normally can. I get it, but it's situations like this where it's like he knew it. I talk all the time about how badly I would love to compete, and there was something weird about the fact that like when I heard the question of like what clone commander serves under Ayla Secura, however it was phrased.
Ayla
Secura.
Because Christian Harloff can pronounce Star Wars.
Yes. There's a planet named after him. When I heard that question, I was like, well, I know it's Commander Bly. So Alex knows it. And Dimilanta know it. Like, if I know it, they have to know it. And like that's why it caught me so off guard. And I'm really surprised that nobody in Camp Dimilanta wasn't like, I didn't want this to be a question that it was like, oh damn it, couldn't think of it in time. Oh well, that like he wanted to stump him. And I'm surprised that, not necessarily surprised, but like I think it says a lot about Alex Damon's historic run as the Star Wars champion, that there is no, I wish it could have been a more decisive question that put him on his ass. you know, and that is a very liberal use of put on his ass. I don't have the numbers in front of us to go back and look at the statistics. And the Schmodown Facebook group and Schmodown Twitter and Frankie Janish will probably have like the standings in the morning or when the sun's out, I should say, because technically this is the morning while we're recording. But not counting singles matches where just the numbers go up at an exponentially higher rate because it's two people answering, this has to be one of the highest scoring matches between just two people ever.
I think they said this is the highest scored match of all time. Like even doubles matches.
Even teams. Okay, I wasn't sure.
Yeah, teams have never hit the 50s.
Like, again, like you were saying.
I want to say the highest teams match might have been like 43. Somewhere between 43 and 48. I don't remember.
That sounds reasonable. But like you were saying, you know, like, yeah, you can make Alex Damon bleed. But it requires a perfect game in a championship format
through sudden death and keeping your cool after
losing.
Yeah.
Like he lost.
I think that challenge is what did it. Not that he, you know, again, it wasn't this big, like he was upset about it. He even said in the post, like, that was a good challenge. And it was a good challenge. You and I both said when it was made, like, yeah, that's a very good challenge. We're both glad it got upheld. Damon was glad it got upheld because it meant that he didn't lose. He didn't win on a technicality.
Yeah, because like my eyes went big when they both had different answers because I was like, I was kind of like jaw game. I'm like, but they're both right because I knew they were referring, like, they're not knew they were referring, but like the question as it was asked.
You mentioned the shield generators, like when because we try to answer them too.
Yeah,
but you out loud mentioned the shield generators. So like you had Damon's answer.
Yeah, and I was like, it's, you know, the bit where he's talking, you know, handle, buddy, don't let me down. And then it was immediately followed up with they're jamming them. And like as he said it, I could hear Billy D. Williams in my head with the quote that Dimilanta said, where like, you know, if they didn't know we were coming, how could they be jamming us? And because it's Star Wars and you have one character who speaks English / basic, whichever you want to call it, and another character who speaks an alien language. I actually think there's like it's like an Asian language that they made Nyan, but I was about to say gibberish, but I was like, that'd be fucked up because it is that actual language. But you have him like going off of somebody, both are right, because there are both instances where Nyan Num's like kind of freaking out and then Lando calms him down. It was such a good challenge. Like,
and I think it was because again, they called Damon the winner before the challenge got put in, which, you know, again, he's allowed to challenge. But you could see Damon breathe a sigh of relief of like, okay, it's over. I can finally take a break. And then when they called the challenge of just, oh crap, I have to keep playing now. And I think that's what did it. I don't think it was enough that like he just, you know, at that point totally shit the bed. I think it was just enough to put him on his back foot of like he was ready to take a break and trying to gear back up into the questions. He just wasn't quite ready.
Yeah, I definitely think it played a part at the very least. It was just such an amazing match. Like I said to Travis, whenever we after the match, I said I don't need to see a single match after tonight to know this is match of the year. You know, like
it's especially given that how hard the Schmodown has gotten, right? Like I said it at the beginning, PJ Campbell has decided we don't get perfect rounds anymore. It doesn't happen. And when it does, it's during a match like this.
It's people going trivia Super Saiyan.
Yeah. Like just the breadth of questions in Innergeekdom now, the fact like the extra, you don't know what you're going to get in singles anymore. We haven't even seen teams play yet. And Star Wars is the one place where like the only way they could make it harder was to make the actual questions harder. And you can tell that there's like one in every round one. Like they sneak a 5-pointer into round one every match. I think for this match in particular, it was the snow speeder question.
Yeah.
It was the
because I was doing good with round one, and then I out loud went, "Oh!"
Yeah, it was.
Me no do ships.
Like it just doesn't. There's one in Star Wars every round where they're like, and this is where they will lose their perfect round, and that didn't happen. And then they, to see them play this well, I think both raises the bar, and it excites me that like these players now know what they have to do to get there, and that how hard that it's going to be now to get to that championship, but that it's doable.
This just occurred to me, and granted, it's because I've anytime I try to get somebody into the Schmodown, normally because all of our friends are all Star Wars sweaties, I lead in with the Fatal 5-Way that Damon had his debut in, and it just popped into my mind that comment, the joke that Joseph Scrimshaw makes, member of corruption, Joseph Scrimshaw, where he kind of like predicted the nature of the Star Wars, the high end of the Star Wars division right now, where it's like it is a race to see whose brain will fart first.
Basically, yeah.
And like, come May, and we had the timeline right. We had it right that Damon does get his auto rematch. So come May,
I feel like even if he wins it back, it's enough has happened now that Kelly knows that she can beat him. Whoever wins the Star Wars tournament knows that they can beat him, right? Like
they know that it's possible.
Yeah. And that they just have to hang on and play. I think Star Wars is now going to become the most aggressive format. Because going into the betting round, you and I both went, granted, given the situation, they both have to bet 3. You don't have an option.
You have to throw a haymaker and pray you don't miss.
Because if you don't get the 3, the other guy's going to get the 3. Like that's the only thing that happens here. So, and we were right, and then they were right, and they kept being right, and it's 2:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
But I think that these players know now that they have to play as aggressively as possible, and maybe on your wheel round you don't go to multiple choice, you go for that 2-point. If you think you have it, you just go for it. Maybe use a JTE instead.
One of those questions that looked like Dimilanta was about to ask for multiple choice, and if he did, this is a different game.
Yeah,
it's a different game.
You need to go for the points rather than the accuracy, I think. And the way you do that is to make sure that your accuracy is there. That's the only option now.
Here's what I wanted to say, though. And when I was alluding to, we have the timeline now officially that Alex Damon, well deservedly, gets an auto rematch in May. He gets his auto rematch, lights out, plays the winner of that. How do I put it? I'm having a brain fart now. we have the timeline, the order of which these matches happen in. Now I remember where I was going with this. I think it is fitting that the number one contender is the only other person in Star Wars right now who's had a perfect game.
Mm-hmm.
It's this is what we were talking about. It's got to be a perfect game or nothing. You need to bat 1,001 to be able to go toe-to-toe with Alex Damon at this point. I don't think anything less can cut it. I think that Star Wars is incredibly competitive. I think there's a lot of, high, mid to low, high tier players. But at the end of the day, if you're going to hang with Alex Damon, if you're going to cross blades with him, you need to be able to pitch a perfect game.
I would say that they need to do that, but more importantly, they need to be able to not miss first. It's the perfect Pokemon strategy. If just make sure all of your attacks hit and all of your opponent's attacks miss, and you will never lose. Where like you clearly cannot plan for that, but like that's the easiest way. Like you're clearly at some point you're going to miss a question, but if your plan is that like I'm just never going to miss, I will just not miss before he misses. I think then that puts you in a going in with that mentality is enough that like if you do miss, you're like, well, he's going to miss too. He will miss eventually, and obviously he didn't tonight, but you can't count yourself out just because you've missed. I think that's the more important thing. Because I mean, generally with these Star Wars matches, we've seen it, in general, there's a total of like 3 questions missed. These rookies are hanging in the way that like 2 years ago, they could have probably played Alex Damon and done okay. So, and I think also it's knowing that you have that championship match coming up is when you need to like hunker down.
Yeah. Here's my thing. And we talked about this before. I really don't want to see the pendulum swing too far in the other direction in Star Wars now, where we go from it's Alex Damon for 3 years, undefeated. He's this god. And now it is going to like catapult all the way up here to Star Wars is an Innergeekdom style rat race. Because Innergeekdom kind of accidentally becomes like really weirdly predictable, where you get one person who's like mastered how to study, and then they just come through and they just shoot from the hip and put holes in everybody's chest, and then they have a belt and they stand on top of the mountain and they shake their arms and they scream into the sky, and then right up behind them is somebody else who went, oh, that's a really good study strategy, and then same thing, boom, 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 takes the belt, rinse and repeat. I really don't want to see, like, again, as much as I want to see Laura Kelly get this belt, I want to see her win it. I want to see her bring it home. Regardless of whatever faction she's on, I've been pulling for her since she's joined the division. I don't want to see it become like everybody gets to touch the belt now. Like I don't want to, I don't know, maybe that's unreasonable. Maybe I'm just too stuck in the status quo of how Star Wars has been for so long. But I don't like that the IG feels like a ticking clock all the time. And it's just like, okay, like when has the current champion's expiration date come? And they get a hole blown through their chest by new hotness. And then they become old and busted. And it brought it all back to a Men in Black reference. But when does that happen? I don't want to see that happen with Star Wars.
I think the difference is that for Star Wars, like what we've seen tonight, it all comes down to how you play the game. Like you need to bring your trivia up to this level, right? Where everyone else is here, you need to be here. But there's not going to be some new way to study that puts you from here to here, because there is no here. It's only here. Like you need to max out, and you can max out in Star Wars, I think.
God bless our audio listeners who can't see the visual metaphors.
I use my hands a lot, but basically, like,
can you tell where the motherland is?
Star Wars is the only division in the Schmodown where you can almost actually max out your trivia. Like, yeah, there's going to be those couple of niche questions that you just won't hit sometimes, or like you'll brain fart on. But because of that, I think we have less of that, the Innergeekdom thing you're talking about, and more of it comes down to like how they're playing the game that day. And it comes down to who's going to brain fart first, like who's going to miss that question first, and how are they going to take it mentally? How's the other person going to take it mentally? Like it all comes down to in that match, in that moment. I think there's a version of tonight where one of Dimilanta, because Dimilanta misspelled a few answers, but he said it right and it looked right, where like one of his misspellings wasn't right and he missed that point, and it's a completely different match where like maybe he gets TKO'd in round 4 or something. You know, there's a version where like I don't know, Damon's hands are down under the camera too long and they call him for cheating, that, you know, they dock him a point or something. Not that he's cheating, but that like, you know, he just keeps doing it by accident and they have to give him a warning. But there's so many versions of this where like you capitalize on a point here or a point there. But you need to be ready for the slugfest of, okay, we're going to sudden death, and like you just still can't miss. And I think that's the difference. And I think Innergeekdom's different now that it's so broad like singles that it also won't have that problem anymore. Like the fact that both of these divisions are being treated like real divisions now, as opposed to, you know, like you said, whoever's the new big player in IG, the one new big player of the year, the one new player of the year, versus, you know, our 3 Star Wars matches of the year. You know, both of those definitely went into how the old divisions worked, and now they're real divisions.
Yeah, and I mean, and granted, and this is tangentially related, what I am predicting a phenomena where in the IG, what we're going to see is there's going to be pre-new IG and post-new IG players, where the post-new IG players, IG is more like singles. And you'll have, you know, like in the same way where like you'll have somebody like Bateman who's like, I like Oscars, I like release dates, I like action. These are the categories that I like a lot, that I feel safe in. And that kind of mentality will be how you see post IG, new IG players, where old IG players are going to go in with what used to just be the Innergeekdom wheel being the here's my safe place of like, oh, thank God Marvel. Oh, thank God DC. Oh, thank God Star Wars. Oh, thank God Star Trek, Wizarding World, whatever. And I'm curious to see if I'm right about that, because I think that might end up being a thing, but that's neither here nor there. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. Again, I don't care. I mean, I care because, you know, Star Wars is my favorite division. Shocker. Whomever it is who gets to keep this belt as of May, I still very badly want Laura Kelly to bring it home, no matter who it is. That said, here's the question. Can the Hunter do this twice?
I think so. I think what he did tonight wasn't a fluke.
Oh, I don't think it was okay.
It wasn't a fluke by the stand, like, you know, like
I don't think he pulled this trivia out of his ass.
Yeah,
I don't think it was a fluke by him.
I think he can do it again. That's not saying he will do it again, because every championship match so far, I have said, I want this person, but my money's on this person, and the person my money's on has lost both times. So I would say that at this point, it is just a straight coin flip. It is whoever misses first.
Because I'm really curious, man. I'm really curious. Because, again, no disrespect to Andrew Dimilanta. My guy, congratulations. You earned this shit, bro. Like, force is with you, man. I don't want to say he got lucky, you know, like I don't want to take away from his victory at all.
I mean, you need luck.
You need luck. Yeah. And again, I don't want to imply that I think he won because Alex Damon forgot Commander Bly.
He didn't win, like he didn't win because Alex couldn't get off the toilet. He didn't win because Alex was like profusely vomiting. He didn't win because Alex had a sudden emergency off camera, but instead of saying that, just disqualified himself. Like he didn't win off of bullshit.
I'm very curious.
But it very easily could have been the other way around.
It could have been the other way around. It could have been.
And that's what they said in Roxy and Damon's post interview was like the problem here wasn't the trivia. They're both maxed out. At that point, it comes down to who's the better player on that day. And
here's the thing, and maybe this won't make any sense, and maybe we'll have like different definitions of brain fatigue. I don't feel like Damon lost because of brain fatigue either. Like, I feel like he just as easily in round one could have done how he described speaking with Jen Sturger with the B, what the fuck is it? Bly, damn it. That like he has that moment. I think he just as easily could have had that again, B, it's a B name, it's a B name, it's a B name. Who the hell is it? I feel like that could have happened at any point in the match. And the way that he reacted, like that didn't seem like, oh my God, I can't do this anymore. There's gray matter oozing out of my ear canal, right? Like, let's say in May, we have this again. We have this marathon match. Like, I'm no Mark Ellis. I'm nowhere near as good as like drawing parallels from like the source material of the trivia to the match. But like, this was very Duel of the Fates, or this is just a marathon match, or even better, the Battle of the Heroes, where it's like, is just this marathon fight that like every 30 seconds, here's a new literal obstacle that's put in your way, where like the bridge is falling down. Here comes the lava waterfall. You know, like it's just one thing after another, on top of the fact that the other guy in front of you can very easily cut you to pieces. You know what I mean? What is to say that we don't get into another marathon fight? That we're looking at another duel between these two that goes into sudden death. That like, who gets the brain fatigue first? You know, like
that's what I'm saying. It could be either of them. Like that's why I'm not worried about the belt moving too many hands or whatever. Like it's not going to come down to who found the new study strategy or who knew more of this. It's strictly going to come down to who on that day came in as the as the luckier player, maybe. And I would say for tonight, Dimilanta was the better player. He knew to challenge that question when he lost, and knew that he had a shot at continuing the match. Like he knew he wouldn't win off of that challenge, that it wouldn't flip the point. He knew that this was my chance to stay in the fight. And whether or not Damon was fazed by the challenge, at the very least, it put Dimilanta in a mental place where he was like, okay, I can still do this.
Do you think, and this is highly speculative right now, do you think that Alex should have just said Commander Bly? Because he clearly knew it. He clearly knew it was Bly.
No, he shouldn't have. I'm glad he asked. I'm glad that
he just asked and then shut up.
Yeah. I mean, even if he had tried, they wouldn't have accepted it.
Probably not. Oh, yeah.
They explicitly said they wouldn't have accepted it.
Yeah.
And they shouldn't have, because it's like we have a rule book now. It's in the rule book. And like, again, like in that moment, you're going to try whatever you can. And I don't think it's like, I'm not saying that Damon did a wrong thing by going like, hey, can I just say the answer? I know what it is, especially because he was giving his answer first. I think his best chance would have been to try to like just very quickly scribble out Bly and hope, right? Like that was his best shot. And it was at 0 when he remembered. So
Jane Fonda.
Yeah. Like that would have been his best bet. Like I'm glad we saw rules be enforced, rules not be complained about. Damon said just, That's how it falls. That's how it went, you know.
He's a very big man about it, and nothing but respect to him. And again, we've said it on here 1,000 times, guys. Like it is hard to root against Alex Damon. If for no other reason than he's just a good dude and a force for positivity in a fandom that needs it more than pretty much any other fandom. This is incredible, and I'm very excited to see what happens in May. You know, I like I said, this is the match of the year in my opinion, and I think it's going to be really hard to top it. But I think that Dimilanta is codified as a legend in the game if he can do this 2 times, and then potentially stave off Laura Kelly when she gets to take a swing at it. Can he do it? I don't know. Can Laura do it? I don't know.
Yes,
There's
to both.
Can they? Yes. Will they? I should say.
No, yeah, I don't fucking know.
There's a lot. You know, this was the Commander Bly was the answer heard around the world, around the galaxy tonight. You know, like this is like again, like this is a moment in the history of the Schmodown. You know, this is there are those moments where in sports where you just go, oh, like that's just a thing that happened, and we're going to talk about this forever. This is that moment for the Star Wars division. And congrats to the Hunter. Very much so. And congrats to Alex Damon for being a very, very gracious, now former champion. Before we wrap up, everybody, our slate of matches for next week. We will be discussing the April lineup. We will be discussing all of the people who have been confirmed for the First Class League. Again, we had a lot to get through. We knew this was going to be a late night for us. So thank you for giving us a little bit of time to stave off that news. But next week for the matches, we have the Dungeons Video Drew versus Elliot Dewberry of Corruption on March 24th. Christina Vassallo of the Stars going against Rick Radis of the Finstock Exchange on March 25th. I couldn't tell if that was actually March 25th or not. The Dens, Paul Preston is going up against James White from Corruption on March 26th. And then also on March 26th as a pay-per-view in a Schmodown Battlefield, first one of the season, we have Liz Shannon Miller of the Usual Suspects going toe-to-toe with John the Outlaw Roca from the Finstock Exchange on the 26th. And that will be followed up by Ben the Boss Bateman of the Dungeon against Mark Yodi Riley of the Den in singles on March 26th as well for the Schmodown Battlefield. Travis, Video Drew or Dewberry, who you got?
Don't care. Video Drew, I guess, because we like her.
We do. Again, as much as we like Drew around these parts, I got to go with Dewberry because Corruption. I will never bet against them.
Next match, I don't know either of those players.
I think they're both rookies, so there's no real
match after that. Paul Preston.
I think Paul Preston is a good bet, but since I'm always going to put my money on Corruption, I got to back my team there. Liz Shannon Miller versus the Outlaw.
I think that Miller's the one that beat him in the tournament, right?
Yes.
I'm going to put my money on her. And I'm going to put my money on Ben Bateman. Because the dungeon.
Okay. I love Roca. I love Roca the person. I love him, the podcast host, the film critic, and the Schmodown player, whatever. I think he's coming back for revenge. And I think that Roca has a very good track history of that he's very much like Doomsday. You can't kill him the same way twice. I think Roca's coming back with a vengeance. I think he's going to pull it. As for Ben Bateman versus Riley, I'm with you 100% on Bateman. I love Mark Riley. He is a legend in the sport. There's a reason why the Lifetime Achievement Award is named after him. He's one of the most OG of the OGs. However, his singles game hasn't been there as strong as it used to be. All the way at the beginning of the episode, I said I would hesitate to say that Bibbs or Roka's singles game has atrophied over the years. I will say I feel like Riley's has a little bit, and that's no disrespect to him. But I don't think Mark Riley has what it takes to beat Ben Bateman. I really don't. I love seeing him play, but I don't think he's got it. So I agree with you on that. All of that said, Travis, where can the lovely people find you, brother?
They can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Travis Political, and streaming on Twitch on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time at Black Leader 439. If you follow me on Twitter, I will tweet it out when I go live. I'm still playing Pokemon Emerald because I didn't die, and I promised the title to stream this time so that every single person that comes in doesn't ask me what we're doing because I forgot the title to stream last time. I realized that after the fourth person asked me, wait, why do you have a Rayquaza as your starter? I did it dumb, but it's okay. Jared.
Yes.
Where?
You guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at DarkJedi2552. You can also find me in the chat of his Twitch streams watching because support the homies. God damn it. I'll piss in your shoes. Watch his goddamn stream. You can also find the Nerd Academy podcast on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and on our website, www.thenerdacademypodcast.com, where if you're feeling generous, you could donate to our Patreon page. Speaking of our patrons, thank you to our $10 alumnus, Case and Brion, the Waffle Wizard, Delta 9, and Zach Knaus. You guys help us make the content we love to produce. If you're interested, also consider the $5 tier where you get access to all of our exclusive shows, the Versus series, where we do different matchups every month, different Star Wars characters who never would have crossed paths or never would have crossed blades. March's matchup was Darth Malgus versus Kyle Katarn. April, we're doing Executor Cedrus versus the Grand Inquisitor from Rebels. You can check out Heroic History 101, where Travis and I review older comic book stories. To harken in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Travis and I did the first volume of Nick Spencer's Sam Wilson Captain America, which, no spoilers for Travis or Alexis, who is on the phone at the moment, but we made a very good decision doing that. I watched the first episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier this morning. I enjoyed it, and we made a good call choosing that volume. There were more eventful stories we could have picked, but we picked the right one. You can also check out the audio commentaries that tie in a Nerd Academy Movie Club. We are just now finishing up Zack Snyder month to celebrate the release of the Snyder Cut. We have on the $10 tier, you get early access to Campus Life and Nerd Academy Movie Club. And right now, if you would like to subscribe, you can listen to our review of the theatrical cut, not the Snyder Cut, but the theatrical Joss Whedon version of Justice League on the $10 tier, as well as the audio commentary, if you'd like to watch the movie along with Devin and myself. Speaking of the Snyder Cut, this Monday on Nerd Academy's main show, we are going to be doing our Snyder Cut review, and then the following week will be our first two recaps of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We'll be reviewing the first two episodes, as well as doing a news roundup for everything we miss over the course of these multi-review weeks.
Which thankfully has not been too much.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's just been like a, this is a thing story here and there. So thank you very much for being patient with us. Hopefully no massive news breaks while we're trying to get through the Snyder Cut stuff. But thank you all so very much for listening. We don't exactly have an outro, but smash cancer, and thank you for listening.